This question comes from Max. He asks what would happen if all of the sun's visible light were gathered and focused into a laser-like beam about 1 meter wide by the time it reached Earth. I usually try to assume good intentions, but in this case, I'm not convinced Max has the planet's best interests at heart. Here's the situation he's describing. If you were standing directly in the path of that beam, you wouldn't survive for long. Not in any familiar sense, at least you wouldn't really die, you would instantly stop being biology and start being physics. To understand why, consider this. In an entire day, Earth receives only a tiny fraction of the energy the sun emits every single second. Even if that energy were spread evenly across the whole planet, it would still be billions of times stronger than normal sunlight. Now imagine compressing all of that into a single square meter. When the beam struck the atmosphere, the air would heat to millions of degrees, almost instantly, turning into plasma. That plasma would dump its energy out in intense X. Those X-rays would then heat the surrounding air, creating more plasma and powerful infrared radiation. Everything near the impact point would be vaporized, and the surface of the Earth would begin to be stripped away, like a nuclear weapon, but far more violent. The Earth is large enough that people on the opposite side would be shielded from the direct beam, at least briefly, but they wouldn't survive either. The cause wouldn't be the beam itself, but what comes next, a global, burning twilight. Twilight is sunlight scattered through the atmosphere when the sun is out of sight. In this case, radiation ranging from infrared to X-rays would flood the atmosphere, ionizing it and heating the surrounding air until it began to glow on its own. Some of that energy would escape into space, but a significant portion would remain trapped, forming a rapidly expanding shell of heat and light that would wrap around the planet. Material blasted into space from the impact zone would scatter and reflect infrared radiation back toward Earth, heating regions far beyond the horizon. How fast this devastation spread would depend on atmospheric details, but the outcome would be unavoidable. There's also the moon. With the sun's light diverted into the beam, the moon would initially go dark, but the enormous glow from the destruction itself would illuminate it, and the reflected light alone could be intense enough to burn exposed surfaces. This reflected light would by only moments before the incandescent twilight engulfed the entire world, delivering a final planet-wide sunrise. Earth might not be completely destroyed, though if the beam couldn't track a moving target, the planet would pass through it in only a few minutes before orbital motion carried it away. Everyone on the surface would still be cooked, and much of the atmosphere and outer layers would be lost, but the bulk of the planet would remain scarred, silent, and permanently marked as a monument to one of humanity's worst imaginable ideas.